Thank you for your contribution. And now Q&A time. Questions, comments. Please just raise your hand and Carolina will give you a microphone. Try not to be too long, please, so that we can ask and answer as many questions as possible. And also, if you please present yourself so that we know who is speaking. Good morning, my name is Hovorka. You were talking about debt, and I've seen quite a lot of presentations on YouTube, etc. Is it right to think about debt in this context? Because we are facing climate changes and we will have to change our thinking. All these facts will be no longer true. We will not have enough food. Probably the access to medical care will not be as easy as it is now. So is this going to be relevant in the future? I mean, have you thought about it? Maybe climate change will introduce completely different elements to this debate. Let's collect questions and then we will do the answers. My name is Fiala. You know what? I've been thinking about this from the political point of view. How to get rid of the U.S. dominance. The dominance which is actually not grounded, you know. Social Watch, Tomáš Růžička. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. First, thanks to Madame Kočišová for her presentation, full of inspiration for me.
Tahle tematika knihou, kterou vydali Přátelé země v překladu
I would like to draw your attention to a book which was published in Slovakia by Richard Doudwaite, so you can read it in Slovak. That's the first author translated to Czech, talking about money making or how money is made, but we can also make money ourselves. And on the state level, you were talking about the fact that states cannot do the same as the corporate sphere, but in Argentina there were complementary currencies introduced, and they used these tools to battle their prices. They were actually, the state created Patacon, a new currency to pay out their employees and also to repay debt.
Jako to je další možnost,
jak
řešit situaci, kdy se nám peněz nedostává. A ty příklady, jak
solve the need for money. We've got examples not only from Argentina, but also from Germany during the war. It's an efficient tool. It can be an efficient tool when it comes to it.
Já jsem Lukáš Sobek,
Sobek, the Association of Czech Mathematicians and Physicians. You defined money as language, but language is very natural to people, to human beings. And my question is, do people need money once they have language as an integral part of their being? Maybe services can be bartered, you know, you can just barter services for commodities, just sign that you owe me this and I owe you that, and we wouldn't need money as an abstract entity. So my question is, do we need money once we have language? And you say money equals language. Okay, we've collected quite inspirational questions. One more. Jiří Silný, Foundation of Rosa Luxemburg. What about cryptocurrencies? You're talking about language equals money. So what role does cryptocurrency have in this context? Ilona or Miluše, who wants to start? I'll start with the last question. I can't hear the speaker. I cannot hear the speaker. Hele, já neslyším. The microphone's off. I'm sorry. The microphone's not on. I cannot hear the speaker. Still, I cannot hear the speaker. Okay, I can hear her now. Thank you. Today's money infrastructure, it's not only about the banknotes and coins and your account number, but it's also about taxes, legislation, pricing, accounting, financial institutions, etc. This all creates a quasi-language which contains money as an element of it. And that's why we don't understand money, because it's only a part of something we don't know what it is. A linguist, when thinking about money, will come to a conclusion that money can generalize. Unlike language, you see something behind 1 Czech crown, you see something else behind 1 million Czech crowns. Different people see different things. The same with language. You start with a particular meaning. This is a chair. In general, a chair and a table become furniture and etc. Just one detour. Back to language. If you stop perceiving money as a commodity and you start perceiving it as a communication tool which communicates the need of the society, we actually won't need taxes, because taxes is the only way the government can lay their money on your money. The Czech National Bank has money, but the state needs taxes to collect money. Interest rates. Why do we need interest rates? Interest rates are there to solve somebody's need for money. Interest rates are trying to solve two different things: circulation of money and saving of money. So you're saving money, but you're also paying for borrowing money. So it's two things that are in discrepancy. The language can be really simple, and money can be really simple. The set of code and codes and code words can be much smaller. And also money can be perceived in much more limited context. If we accept that language is important for everybody, everybody will have to be paid. Students will be paid because studying is also an activity which should be paid for. I've been studying this since 2005, and maybe my thinking is not exactly the right thinking, but there are so many alternatives here. that you have to take in consideration, at least some of them. The system should be simplified. Miroslav Barta, an Egyptologist, is saying that we need to simplify our lives, but to simplify them, we need to simplify and understand in simple terms the monetary infrastructure. Then we'll be able to understand ourselves as well. But I know this is very difficult because it took me a while before I got to understand how come entities can issue money once it's not covered by anything. That's cryptocurrencies, for example. With the development of new information technology, we've got alternatives popping up. This is again looking for alternatives, looking for solutions, but looking for alternatives to something what we don't know what it is. Bitcoin, for example. To me, it's an absurd thing, modern technology, which acts as if it was gold, but you can copy it. You can keep copying it. Theoretically, you can make an ultimate number of copies of Bitcoin, but somebody decided that we will need only this many Bitcoins and not more. And this is very convenient for technical people, for certain group of people only, and that's absurd. Alphabet also started as an elitist technology, elitist tool. Only elites knew how to write, only certain people, educated people, knew how to write. And that's exactly it with money these days. New technologies, writing, printing, etc., always started as an elitist thing and then developed to be used by other people. Now we've got certain groups of people who understand money, certain groups of people who understand the functioning of Bitcoin. Again, it's very elitist. How come that a group of people will come out with this idea, Bitcoin? We will trust one another, despite the fact that we don't know one another. We will introduce rules and we will believe that everybody will comply with them. I mean, it's an unbelievable concept. Some complementary currencies are really interesting. They are not competitive, just the opposite. They are an expression of solidarity. Different money can have different properties. It's not that money is one thing. And there are many complementary currencies which are trying to react to different needs. But without public support, complementary currencies will not last long. Thank you. And what about the specific position of the US in global economy and the climate change? Cryptocurrencies, just one sentence. Cryptocurrencies are not money. It's actually speculative asset. It's not. It doesn't fulfill the condition of money. The U.S. position is not given by their strength. They are not strong anymore. It's just they have no competition. Their market is really wide. There is a number of financial institutions which are related to the US, and also the key position of the US dollar. The US dollar, since Bretton Woods, has been building its central position, and the US dollar is still dominating the world with its position of a reserve market, a currency to quote the price of commodities in, etc. But there's no competition to dollar at the moment. But with the US and their current behavior, sanctions, trade wars, etc., that will accelerate the movement to avoid dollar and to replace dollar with a different currency. I don't think it's going to be euro, because euro does not have the political ambitions necessary, plus the monetary union is not working properly. I think with Italy, a lot of things will happen in the near future which will hamper the monetary union. I think Russia, China, Turkey, Iran have very strong motivation to avoid dollar, and they've been trying hard, and they've done their best. Yuan will definitely fight to strengthen its position. Russians have started getting rid of American securities in April. It will last some time. It will not happen overnight to get rid of the dollar's dominance. But the US financial infrastructure is very wide. So it's not about the dollar only. It's about financial institutions which are based in the US. And the threat to Iran shows us that the EU is not capable of protecting its companies so that they can do business with Iran. If the US, say in respect of Total, the French company, you can do business in Iran, why not? But if you do business there, you won't do business with the US, and you will fall out of the dollar infrastructure. That becomes a problem for the Total management. What is Iran doing now? I've seen proposals in the EU to pay cash to Iran. Really? Like suitcases full of money. If you stop Iran from dollar payments, if you prevent them from using dollar as their trading currency, it will become a problem. I read in Financial Times yesterday that Iran exports crude oil in tankers. When they leave their ports, they switch off their radars. I mean, everybody can see them anyway. Plus, the crude oil will appear somewhere, but they try to hide their movements. These four countries which I've mentioned, they will do their best to avoid dollar. Euro will probably not do it. To the climate change is a substantial thing. The challenge is that we still perceive climate change in the light of the current economic situation. We keep thinking about climate change in the light of our today's rights and responsibilities. It can happen in the future that people who are poor will not have access to water, while the rich ones will have access to it. You know, it could be all a question of wealth. It very much depends on how climate change will develop. The climate change will have impact on economy, not the other way around. The economic situation of individual countries will dictate their access to resources. So you can actually ask the question from a different angle. The economic situation will be here. There will always be some economic situation, but it will be impacted by the climate change, and it's a big unknown. Thank you. Maybe we can take one more question, a quick question. One simple, quick question. Jiří Stek. Office of the Prime Minister. I have one question. We used to talk about emission policies, issue policies. Now we call it monetary policies. And to me, we've come to a bottleneck that with this issue policy actually allows to concentrate power in some hands rather than others. And once we have concentrated power into the hands of private banks, which are not governed, but better say regulated from a certain level, we are moving the issue policy in a certain direction. So the existence of central banks, ECB and ACB in Europe, for example, or Fed in the States, is one of the biggest threats to democracy and also a symptom of erosion of democracy in the public sphere, democracy as perceived so far. Would you like to react, ladies? Friedrich Hayek accepted the thought that that we could at one point open a free monetary policy. Countries can issue their own currencies, and the currencies would be more or less trustworthy, and the market will actually select the best one. But it didn't happen. But what happened was that everything is now in the hands of private banks, the private bank sector. It's not in the hands of the governments anymore because private banks issue money. It can happen that everybody will be able to issue their own currency, but will have to be linked to the system operated by private banks. It's like Bitcoin now. But it's not any alternative, it's not any modification of the current system. It's more or less above alternative. So we are going in the way Hayek predicted, but with a different system. So this is something what is trying to present itself as an alternative, but it is not an alternative, it's just the cryptocurrencies. You're right, private currencies have extensive privilege. After crisis, when we realized that they were too big to fail, they still carry system-related risks. They still feel that they will be saved because if we don't save them, the governments will fail. Vollgeld, the concept of full value money, that's something what we should speak about more. The situation when states and governments have full responsibility for money, it becomes a problem because full responsibility means responsibility to whom? Private banks have a privilege in being able to issue a private debt, and that's their key strength. Stiglitz, remember, proposed strengthening of central banks in order to strengthen democracy. The problems we are facing can be as strong that they will force us to introduce this change. Came to my mind, the Dutch Central Bank, for example, commissioned a survey, I think it was back in 2011, to survey how bank sector and bank sector loans into old technology would impact markets if we were to introduce new technology as the only option. It would have a significant impact on the economy. Banks, and that's where I see the lack of democracy. Banks will uphold banks which are repaying debt to these banks, even though these companies don't make sense anymore. The problem is that if you owe 1,000 crowns to a bank, it's your problem. But if somebody owes 10 million to a bank, the bank has a problem. Thank you very much for the debate. Now we'll have about 25 minutes break, and the next panel will start in 12:15. Jürgen Kaiser will speak, and Tomáš Růžička, a development expert from the Czech Republic. Very much looking forward to the next block.
Dobrý den. Ještě než začneme, tak bych vás chtěla poprosit ty, kteří by se cítili lépe s překladem, protože Jürgen bude mluvit anglicky, abyste...
So Jürgen will speak in English, so those who want to rely on interpretation, please take the interpreting headsets, and we'll be starting in about 2 minutes.